Greetings all and welcome to AnalyView. Today we are looking at the Texan pioneers of psychedelic rock, the 13th Floor Elevators, and their 1967 track Slip Inside This House. It opens their second studio album East to Everywhere, and at just shy of 8 minutes, it's by far the longest in their catalogue. Disbanding before the 60s were even over, the group drew little success during their time, but saw a small revival in 1972 with the release of the highly popular compilation album Nuggets, Original Artifacts from the First Psychedelic Era. They then saw another boom of fame in 2000 after a song from the album was featured in the film High Fidelity, opening the floodgates for a new wave of fans. Nowadays, they are arguably known as the first ever psychedelic rock group, and their debut album is heralded as a landmark of sorts. The songs on it are good, but they gravely pale in comparison to the group's underrated magnum opus Slip Inside This House. It was written by the band's founder, lyricist and electric jug player Tommy Hall. Barely 24 years old, he attempted the wild feat of cramming all his philosophies into a single song, hoping it would be progressive in mass altering the collective consciousness, freeing people from nosediving into a generational mess through unsustainable mindsets and lifestyles. And today we're going to be exploring what makes this song. First, a little backstory. In the early 60s, Tommy Hall was attending the University of Texas, where he was a psychology major with a deep interest in philosophy. During his studies, he participated in the trials which observed the effects of LSD in a controlled environment, before it was criminalized. These trials sparked in Hall's mind the idea that acid would change the world. Zoom to late 1965, Hall is trying to get a band going. He brings a few guys together and they are all impressed with the rhythm guitarist and lead singer of the Spades, Roky Erickson. At just 16, Roky had written a song called You're Gonna Miss Me, which showcased potential and attracted attention from fellow Texan musicians. Tommy recruited Roky and the band was born, but they needed a name. It's said that Hall's wife suggested Elevators, due to her admiration for black rhythm and blues groups with similar names, but was told by the band that it was too short. So she added 13th Floor, since it was her lucky number and Elevators had no 13th floor, giving the band this mysterious angle against superstition. Furthermore, it has been said that the significance also lies in the 13th letter of the alphabet being M for marijuana. Roky would later reflect, "There's not a 13th floor in a building, so we said, we're playing on it. It was like, if you want to get to the 13th floor, ride our elevator." Now with a name, Tommy ruled that the band must play the acid, to drop the hallucinogen each time they pick up an instrument. He later said, "We were trying to get into the results of acid, to get into the results of the universe. We were able to objectively and scientifically approach acid, where other groups couldn't do that." Subscribed to the Psychedelic Review, Hall was glad for such exponents of the explosion of consciousness, but he felt as though it lacked guidance. He said that there was no intellectual direction. It was just that you would increase consciousness, but not that you would direct the consciousness. That you could evolve thought by learning, and by thought, that you could begin a pathway to understanding how the universe works. The Elevators recorded their own take on You're Gonna Miss Me, vamping it up from a garagey folk rock tune to a confrontational, mind-bending, visceral and primeval psych rock single, years before punk was even a thing. It was recorded on the 2nd of January 1966 and released just 2 weeks later. This resulted in the band now playing to sold-out audiences, reissuing the single with a larger label and playing on the popular TV show American Bandstand.
Who is the head man of the group here, gentlemen?
Well, we're all heads.
The Psychedelic Sounds of the 13th Floor Elevators was released in October. It sold moderately well and saw the band branch out to the Bay Area and even reach acclaim in the tighter scene of New York. On the album's back sleeve, Tommy wrote an intro and liner notes for each song, explaining that the album is, in essence, a quest for pure sanity. As the band was well known for their use and promotion of psychedelics, they garnered trouble with the law and had numerous run-ins, which led them to hiding out in a barn where they began working on the songs which would form their next album, East to Everywhere. The title of the album was explained in an early interview with Hall. Well, it comes from the idea of Christ consciousness and realizing that you can be born again, that you can constantly change and be reformed into a better and better person. It's like a progressive perfection, and East Everywhere is sort of the combination or culmination of this idea as echoed in the public. It's like everyone is snapping to this, that there is a middle ground between the Eastern trip and the Western trip, and that is by learning to use your emotion and realizing what emotion is and why it is there and how to control it from a pleasure point of view, so that you don't get hung up in a down place. It's just the idea of rising from the dead all over, everywhere. All these ideas in mind, Tommy wanted to express as much as possible in the first song, to connect to the listener and offer alternatives to their thinking. He drew on his many influences, Christian mysticism, Eastern religions, and powerful literary figures like Bob Dylan, but most notable in Slip Inside This House are the teachings of Alfred Korzybski and George Gurdjieff. Gurdjieff believed that humans do not exist to their full potential, that we live in a hypnotic state of waking sleep. Drawing on methods of the fakir, yogi, and monk of renouncing one's life to serve the higher being within, Gurdjieff developed what is known as the Fourth Way. He taught that through conscious work on oneself, people can manifest the latent potentialities we all have within but rarely bring to fruition. Training the mind by intermittently self-observing and retaining mental presence as much as possible, it becomes less susceptible to distraction and infiltration. Gurdjieff may have also been influential to Tommy, as he'd composed hundreds of pieces of music and was also held in high regard amongst some of the more literary crowd. Korzybski, on the other hand, created a discipline named general semantics, which entails the following. Our knowledge as humans is limited by the structure of our nervous systems, as well as the structure of the languages we devise. We cannot have direct access to reality as we filter everything through our learned responses, or abstractions. He famously stated, "The map is not the territory." Korzybski sought to train us to be aware of our abstractions, the way that we immediately and unconsciously respond to the world around us. And we all do this. For example, when we're introduced to someone for the first time and then seconds later we have no idea what their name is. Or when we're consuming an informative piece of media and then we realize that we've just zoned out for the past 30 seconds and have no idea what was just said. Or even the doorway effect, when we pass through one room into another, and as soon as we hit that doorway, we have no idea why we just went into that room. Mental. But through his methods using techniques based on a combination of mathematics and science, we are to reach a consciousness of abstracting, humbling and transforming our attitudes towards everyday life. This objective and revolutionary train of thought appealed to Tommy, and it's no wonder why the counterculture would adopt similar practices. The black and white 50s had far too many inadequacies and flaws, much of which was drawn directly from a lack of open and unprejudiced thinking.
What's wrong with her? She's a woman, isn't she?
The 60s generation vehemently opposed such ignorance and strived to open the floodgates and let colour wash over their minds, often through the use of mind-expanding drugs. But what does Slip Inside This House actually mean? Well, the title was conceived by Tommy's then wife and collaborator within the group, Clementine. As they would drive together through suburbia, Clementine would imagine herself slipping inside the houses, walking up the staircase, going into the back bedroom, putting a record on the player, entering the living room, just experiencing different ways of life, to see through the eyes of others, to adopt new and vastly contrasted perspectives. And this concept sparked the idea in Tommy to use the house as a metaphor. More so than simply being a house where one can seek refuge, it could also represent any physical location where you can exist, or even the human body, this house which we may design and paint to any colour of our liking, or even the shelter of your own mind, an imagined reality, unique to our own consciousness. And throughout the song, I think that it ends up being all of these things. Slip Inside This House was released on East Everywhere in October of '67. For the album sleeve, Tommy emphasized the song's importance by sticking to its theme of consciousness expansion. The front cover emblazons an eastern sun, intended to represent the third eye. The title represents the crown chakra, and the band name has been said to be the eyebrows of Buddha, or a set of wings. The back sleeve reinforces such interpretations with a large image of a meditating yogi showing clearly each of the 7 chakras as mentioned in the lyrics. Although not cracking the top of the charts, East to Everywhere and Slip Inside This House in particular went on to be a strong influence for other artists, being covered by several groups over the years and becoming a sought-after record for audiophiles and collectors of psych alike. One fan I'd like to mention in particular is Patti Smith.
My 13th Floor Elevator records were constant companions. In those days you had your record player and you just pulled the arm over so you could just listen to it over and over, and I would just listen to it over and over and write and fall asleep, and the next morning it was still playing, you know.
Patti's longtime guitarist Lenny Kaye, who actually produced the Nuggets compilation album, praised the group's efforts. No other band lived their dream and nightmare like the Elevators. Tommy Hall metaphysically charted a pathway to higher consciousness, chakra by chakra. Now, I won't much be discussing the instrumentation because the lyrics are what make the song, and the music follows this kind of repetitive structure throughout. Tommy's jug has been brought to the front of the mix on the track, giving it a sonic element of adventure and exploration. The introduction is the lone sound of an electric guitar chugging along for 7 seconds before a snare shot sees the rest of the group come in, and they waste no time getting to the point, as after just a few more seconds, Rocky sings the first verse. Bedouin are nomadic peoples from Middle Eastern deserts, their inhabitancy covering many regions, one of which was Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia is known for being the birthplace of, or at least having inspired, many important developments in the recorded history of humankind, such as the wheel, agriculture, astrology, and even mathematics. Bedouins strongly believe in nuclear family values, that poetry is one of the highest forms of communication, and they place a strong emphasis on courageously believing in oneself first and foremost. To quote Jim Morrison, "There can't be any large-scale revolution until there's a personal revolution, on an individual level. It's got to happen inside first." To ascend from the egg into the flower may represent spiritual growth, to be born again. As a precursor, I want to make clear that metaphors such as this and the multitude of others plastered across this song are not intended to be taken at face value, to be taken literally. True, this imagery may be better visually understood under the influence of a psychedelic experience or through some kind of meditative process, but for the sake of the many sober and/or neurotypical brains which are watching this video, it may be better and easier to just translate it into plain English. So, these people have come from some of the most barren parts of the planet, and they have brought to civilized society a portion of what makes us what we are today. Not only are they ascending themselves, but also the rest of humankind with this alpha information they've somehow acquired. Alpha information sending states within the heaven shower could mean the state of ascension, of total wisdom, of bliss that one reaches through knowledge. The shower of heaven is the gift of better navigating your world with the help of the alpha information and reaping the respective benefits of enjoying a more comfortable life. Here comes a jump of a chord change to A, giving this signal that we're transitioning from the verse. From Disciples, the unending subtleties of river power. The flowing water is a motif which is going to be found throughout this song. The counterculture believe that all things are like water in that they flow, they can take any form, and that all is one and one is all. And that ubiquitous energy is able to flow within you and without you. We are but filters for stimuli to pass through, as the microscope of our perspective casts light to create sense of the world around us on a unique individual basis. The disciples may be the followers of such beliefs, those who live by the wisdom hiding in the open, the simplicities of life which age tends to complicate to the point of total oblivion. By simply observing and learning from these disciples, they transform into mentors. They slip inside this house as they pass by. The climax, the peak, the song's hook. The house may be interpreted as the house of God, as the earth on which we live, as the individual community around us, or even as micro-level as our own body, which I suppose would be astral projection. The disciples are free to do what they please, to go where they please, and be who they please. They can inhabit their own mind and body, or not. They can be on Earth, or they can surf the rings of Saturn, or they can be nowhere at all. They can be in or outside of the house of God, and know that they'll suffer no consequences.
If your limbs begin dissolving in the water that you tread, all surroundings are evolving in the stream that clears your head.
If your limbs begin dissolving in the water that you tread. So, a psychedelic experience mixed with intrusive negativity, such as undealt trauma for example, can lead to undesired experiences ranging from mild discomfort to heightened anxiety to a sense of impending doom and a very real fear of death, otherwise known as a bad trip.
No. Oh no. I'm not gonna die.
Just relax, man. Just relax.
I'm gonna die, man.
You can feel as though you are drowning, just trying to keep your head above water. Psychedelics have the impressive capability to unleash your dimmed thoughts, concerns, and deepest fears onto your prefrontal cortex, whereby you are placed in a straitjacket, your eyes forced open and made to pay attention to what you ignore. Giving a chance to awaiting possibilities nurtures change and birth for existing and new perspectives. This is the stream that clears your head. It allows your surroundings to evolve from something you once feared to appear as they really are.
Find yourself a caravan like no one must have planned.
In this biblical line, find yourself a caravan like Noah must have led. The caravan can be whatever you make it. Everyone knows the story of Noah's Ark and how the vessel was used to save all species from extinction. The replacement of the caravan, a kind of mobile house, is a hybrid to not only save yourself from drowning in the water that you tread, but also to retain momentum.
And slip inside this house as you pass by.
Then slip inside this house as you pass by points also to the caravan being utilized as a house. It provides shelter just as much as it does enlightenment. Entering the house is a necessary stepping stone to ensure survival and nurturing, keeping you on the journey of your soul's desire. But this concept of a house can be applied to any kind of domicile, be it not limited. A building, a tunnel or cave of sorts, a simple tarp and 2 sticks, whatever your imagination allows. However, the distinction between these and a caravan is mobility. A rolling stone home, it'll be hard to gather moss. That is to say, the woes of being trapped in one singular society. The capability to expand your spiritual growth through a vast array of ever-new possibilities is greatly heightened when you always have the freedom to see a new city, a different sunset, warm, welcoming faces you've never dreamt. Travel has long been a fast track to world experience, and doing so while also having a personal house to catch your every fall can allow you to focus on becoming the best version of yourself. Now here's another dramatic chord change into A, grabbing your attention for the next line.
True conception, knowing why, brings even more than meets the eye. Slip inside this house as you pass by.
True conception, knowing why, brings even more than meets the eye. Slip inside this house as you pass by. This little interjection before repeating the hook gives it more emphasis. Perspective is everything, and the way you think, the things you believe in, dominate how you see the world. Don't forget that the eyes are just an external extension of the brain. If you change your neural pathways through practicing different beliefs, your outlook on the world will transform.
In this dark we call creation, we can be and feel and know from an effort, conversation that's surviving on the go.
In this dark we call creation. The darkness is both the obscurity of the universe we find ourselves in, as well as the unknowing, that ceaseless search for truth and understanding, which always seems to be an arm's reach away. We can be and feel and know from an effort comfort station. The effort comfort station is likely our bodies, our vehicles which hold our mind and our consciousness and deliver us the freedoms to explore this life per its capabilities. On the go is what we always have been and perchance always will be. It's the human situation to constantly be in a state of being versus becoming, and therein lies the struggle ad infinitum. The endless cycle of effort to comfort, effort to comfort. The design strives for advancement. 1 step backwards and 3 steps forwards. And this vehicle can only survive on the go. If we stop, we die. As per the Dylan lyric, he not busy being born is busy dying. Or, more in terms of mental power, use it or lose it. Furthermore, the dispersion of energy and comfort allow one to experience a wide array of emotions and feelings, which could otherwise be unknown, hindered by a lack of bodily exploration. To come to know anything requires a mental struggle of 2 ideas where that perceived to be the superior takes the stand. Without putting in the effort, you cannot come to feel, to know, or to be anything. There's infinite survival in the high baptismal glow. This is a direct reference to a religious experience, God, or the universe, or whatever you'd like to call it. To submit to something higher than yourself, to accept your part in the ubiquitous connectivity amongst the omniscience of the planet we straddle, the concept of everything being one arises. Reincarnation, or at least some kind of legacy, assists in the endless human denial of death. Believing that we go on after our bodies diminish translates to existing without an end. Next, we have another transitional chord change to show that a different tone, a different scene is about to take place. We now hear the vocals being layered. Due to the lo-fi nature of the song, it's difficult to accurately distinguish, but to the best of my listening abilities, it sounds as though Rocky has overdubbed his vocals. This gives the verse a choir-esque hymn-like quality. A season being a temporary transitional state. Here the metaphor pertains to the notion that we are ever-changing, evolving beings. Without a season to see us into the next phase, we are immobilized. Interesting is the use of grown here. In the 60s, the generational gap seemed larger and more divisive than ever. It was a common notion that anyone over the age of 30 was the enemy. The youth realized that they were the future and had the power. The grown-ups may have matured physically, but had mentally reached a standstill. The kids sought to push all metaphysical boundaries to perpetuate more than their predecessors ever had. The use of mind-expanding substances was an initiation for the cogs to turn, to put everything into perspective and give birth to a new set of thoughts which would revolutionarily change the world. Karmic beliefs were held in high regard. Yin and yang, what goes up must come down. You are always risen from the seeds you've sown. So if you are grown and not planting any further seeds, existing without any beneficial output, you shall rise no longer.
There is no reason to rise alone. Other stories given and sages of their own.
This is a gentle reminder that life, with all its struggles and triumphs, ought not be troubled alone. No one else in history went unmanned. Even one's heroes whom they idolize and deify did not create legacies on their own. Everyone has an influence, a sage of their own, whether it be a companion or lover, a parental figure, a book read, a song heard, an illuminating passerby, or what some may call divine intervention. These are all external stimuli, being harnessed and utilized in conjunction with a concoction of a diverse myriad of others to produce a unique output. Hall is saying, do not look at greatness as impossible, for everyone begins at square one and takes what they need to give back what they can. The 13th floor elevators may have been pioneers of the psychedelic revolution, but these ideas didn't come from thin air. One of their greatest influences was Bob Dylan, who was a pioneer in his own right, yet he had influences of his own in artists like Pete Seeger and Woody Guthrie, and they had their own influences and so on and so forth. To have written this song, Hall would have had his favourite philosophers and their teachings in mind, and philosophers looked up to those who came before them. No ideas came out of nothing. Everything is connected, you are not alone, and there is no shame in accepting a helping hand. The melodic section now reverts back to the similar structure and the verses continue.
Live where your heart can be given.
Live where your heart can be given and your life starts to unfold in the forms you envision in this dream that's ages old. I guess this is relatively self-explanatory. A continuation of reaping what you sow. If you put your heart out there, it's likely for love to come back to you. The timeless lesson to be yourself is exceedingly difficult and requires great discipline and focus. To bear the heart is to be true. Hall is reminding us that only by being ourselves and by exerting love into all we do, may our lives flourish as best they can into whatever we wish, into the forms we envision. This saying is ages old, and yet almost all of us tend to have trouble being an example. Turning a dream into reality is what we all try to do when we have goals and aspirations. To quote Yoko Ono, "A dream you dream alone is only a dream you dream together is reality." The message is to get out there, do what you know you must to be the best version of yourself, and inspire others to do the same. Everything in this life began as a dream, and the choice is ours to realize it.
On the river there is the only snare. You receive all you can hold, like you've been told.
On the river layer is the only sayer, you receive all you can hold like you've been told. This line is more far out and psychedelic and is, without a doubt, directly attributed to an LSD experience. Another reference to this river or water. To mentally dissect it into layers is to realize that there is no such thing. The river is one. It's endless flowing energy. Add a drop of water to the river. It ceases to be a drop, nor is it part of the river. It is the river. And we can also see ourselves as endless flowing energy. In 1964, the book The Psychedelic Experience, a manual based on the Tibetan Book of the Dead, instructed the reader, turn off your mind, relax, float downstream. Like meditation, the idea is to transcend the monotonous routine of daily life by tapping into a hidden consciousness. If you've ever successfully meditated, you'll know that you can be amazed by the thoughts that you manage to conjure, as if they are not your own, being delivered to your mind through some transient muse. But all we know and all we ever know comes from within. The sayer is ourself. We are but vehicles through which we filter the stimuli we experience and churn out thoughts and ideas, stamped with our own mental fingerprint. As individuals, we are limited to our own intellectual and physical capabilities. We can only hold so much. The inner voice tells us what we can and can't do, and it's easy to get caught up in anguish, unknowingly prohibiting ourselves from being the best versions we can be in any given moment. Our inner child, however, speaks rationality and informs us of our true potential. The phrase, turn off your mind, relax, float downstream, was popularized in 1966 by John Lennon in the Beatles song Tomorrow Never Knows.
Turn off your mind, relax and float downstream.
He wrote this after having read the psychedelic experience under the influence of LSD. He interpreted it as having an ego death, which I suppose you can picture as giving yourself to the river can be seen as drowning and being reborn with more understanding and connectivity to everything and everyone around you. The theme is continued in the next verse.
Every day's another dawning. Give the morning wind a chance. Always catch your thunder yawning. Lift your mind into the dance.
Every day's another dawning, give the morning winds a chance. Always catch your thunder yawning, lift your mind into the dance. This line exudes optimism. Every day is a new beginning, a new opportunity, but only if we give it a chance. It might be a stretch, but I think the thunder could be an obscure reference to the feeling of lightning shooting up your spine when you feel a sudden wave of intensity during a psychedelic experience. It's an energetic moment of unbounded inspiration and motivation. Thunder yawning, on the other hand, could be the yang to this yin, the parasympathetic nervous system taking the helm and putting you into a rest. The advice Hall gives is to be aware when your mood sinks and use this opportunity to find gratitude in life's simplicities. For example, that we are alive for another day, that the world is our oyster. The dance is that of life, different vibrations we pick up on as we go along to find the most suitable rhythm for ourselves.
Leave the shadows from your awning. Sweep the football circumstance that lies outside this house. No passing by.
sweep the shadows from your awning, shrink the fourfold circumstance that lies outside this house, don't pass it by. Here, Hall tells us to rid ourselves of restrictive and spiritually damaging conditions. The shadows from your awning are the physical entities and mental anguishes which intentionally darken and cloud your worldview. Fourfold circumstance may refer to the four cardinal points, north, south, east, and west, or more immediately, four walls within which you can feel imprisoned. Instead of complete obliteration, it's recommended to shrink the concept. Its remains to act as a guidepost of where one is and where one comes from, without overwhelming to the point of mental slavery. These things lie outside of the house, as they have no part in it. Acquiring a healthy outlook aligned with ascension towards enlightenment, to be inside the house, requires focusing on what is essential for you as an individual, and thoughts and actions which do not aid are dispensable. You must not let slip vital pieces of the puzzle that is the life you envision. I'll footnote here that this idea was already expanded upon by Hall in the track Through the Rhythm from the Elevator's previous album. He explicitly describes the control authoritarian figures use to censor life. Through a spiritual awakening, you arrive at the realization of what your spirit truly sings to. Your perspective is transformed and renewed. The shell of foam is your body. Shell, as in something past its expiration date, a representation of what once was, and foam refers to the fragility of the human being. Foam being full of holes points to the flaws of our physical existence, and these holes are formed by bubbles, pointing at the passing of time we have in these bodies with each and every pop. This is a brilliant metaphor which brings attention to our invincibility and mortality.
Twice born gypsies care and keep nowhere of their former home. They slip inside this house as they pass by.
Twice born gypsies care and keep the nowhere of their former home. They slip inside this house as they pass by. In religion, especially in Christianity, submitting yourself to the faith at a later stage in life is known as being born again, having a second chance at life. This is being reborn by the virtue of the God within, the awakening that the entire universe and all it encompasses is inside of you, the knowing that you now possess the power to be whomever you wish and do whatever you please, the incredible yet simple beyond belief ability to make the day. The former home is the shell of foam. These gypsies, likely nomads of the terrain of the mind more than that of the land, have rebirthed themselves through enlightenment, yet they are not completely detached from their pasts. To know where you are going, you must first know from where you come. We were born into these bodies, and as much as we can venture into the great labyrinths of the mind, none of this is possible without the body keeping the organs alive, pumping blood to the brain. Psychedelics are one way to journey within, but as with virtually anything else in life, the rule applies: everything in moderation. William Blake said, "The road of excess leads to the palace of wisdom. You never know what is enough until you know what is more than enough." This is true, but caution ought to be taken, lest you wish to see an early grave. To remain mentally and spiritually aware and evolving requires the body to continue functioning, the cogs turning like the tool it is. A well-adjusted gypsy uses their expertise to locate the fine line between the mental and the physical, and walk that tightrope with ease. It's sometimes necessary, even vital, to bring focus back onto the unavoidable reality that we are humans in very temporary bodies on a temporary planet, and that care must be taken. Perpetually prodding yourself forth without forgetting your roots allows you to recognize both the errors and the wisdom of the past, and understand where, how, and why we're required to work on this life and not slink back into old traditions. The next line, slip inside this house as you pass by.
You think you can't, you wish you could. I know you can, I wish you would. Slip inside this house as you pass by.
This is a soft nudge out of comfortability. The potential is locked within, and belief is the key. When you step outside of your comfort zone, it can be overwhelming how flooded you become with opportunities to change and grow.
If you feel safe in the area that you're working in, you're not working in the right area. Always go a little further into the water than you feel you're capable of being in. Go a little bit out of your depth, and when you don't feel that your feet are quite touching the bottom, you're just about in the right place to do something exciting.
There's a short instrumental section here with a psychedelic fuzzed up guitar solo, I guess which is added in to break up the monotony of being absolutely inundated with line after line of profound thought.
420 birds of mine baked into an AnalyView, polarized into existence, magnet hard from red to blue.
4 and 20 birds of Maya baked into an atom U, polarized into existence, magnet heart from red to blue. This is, for me, the most esoterically interesting line of the entire song, and it's actually what got me into looking at the lyricism in depth many moons ago. 4 and 20 meaning 24, Hall has likely taken from an 18th century nursery rhyme Sing a Song of Sixpence, which contains the line 4 and 20 blackbirds baked in a pie. In the Middle Ages, numerology was believed to be mystic, as though written numbers had magical properties which led peasants to avoid direct eye contact with them, opting instead to use a mirror to read them. Therefore, 4 and 20, you know how it is. Also, 24, like the hours on a clock, this signifies that there is magic within each day. The birds of Maya are likely the Aztec bird-like gods Quetzalcoatl and Huitzilopochtli. However, beyond the civilization, Maya may also be referring to the Sanskrit word meaning magic or illusion. So, we have these concepts: magic, gods, ancient civilizations, and superstition, all of which are concentrated into an atom you polarize into existence. You are the atom. You have seemingly come from nothing, but are the result of every human who has ever lived. All their glories, triumphs, struggles, pains, joys, mundane nothings, and insane everythings. It has all led to who you are in this exact moment. Your heart is a magnet, a compass, guiding you to where it feels you belong. The red side or the blue side. I'll note that often in... Also, it's raining here, if you can hear that, I don't know. It's okay. I'll note that often in color psychology, blue stands for security, confidence, and trust, whereas red is ambition, excitement, and love. I'm not sure if this was Hall's exact implication, but it gives credence to the polarity of the heart and the decisions we make. The verse continues, this is a warning. Beware of illusions which may appear true and lead your heart in the wrong direction. In the realm of dark, akin to blindness, we cannot see the truth. Within the house is where we can probably see the picture. Looking deep within, we can see the truth. Hall is advising us to search for inner wisdom before making any rash decisions. When bereft of logic, meditation is an incredible problem-solving tool. The next line returns to the earlier theme of thunder, with the mention of lightning.
All your lightning waits inside you, travel it along your spine.
All your lightning waits inside you, travel it along your spine. Apart from the aforementioned psychedelic experience giving this sensation, awareness of the lightning within can come through practices like Kundalini yoga and, of course, meditation. Mindfulness of the energy or lightning within is deeply beneficial to unlocking your true potential. It continues,
7 stars receive your visit, 7 seals remain divine, 7 churches filled with spirit, trigger from the angel mind, to slip inside this house as you pass by.
These are the 7 chakras, located from the base of the spine, the root chakra, to the top of the head, the crown chakra. Through acknowledgement, the chakras are providing a treasure, or the gift of insight, which is so shockingly profound that it's hard to believe it actually comes from within, as if it were excavated from the mind of an angel. Be conscious of each chakra as your lighting passes them by.
The space you make as you move along, no longer human, odds or cause, the center of this house.
Here we have the utmost discovery that we are autonomous in our thoughts and actions, and the faith that the magic within is, with or without a human body, not going away. Perhaps this is what some people refer to as a soul, and with this there is the possibility of reincarnation, to never die. The verse, "There is no season when you are grown," appears again as a reminder. A lot of information has been thrown our way, and individual lessons all begin to sound the same when jumbled in a sea of words and ideas. So we take a breath, remain humbled, focus, and we continue. This is influenced by the 1961 novel Stranger in a Strange Land, written by Robert A. Heinlein. In the story, a human born on Mars comes to Earth and is indifferent to our concepts such as war, religion, and an afterlife. He attempts to create a universal Martian-influenced Church of All Worlds, combining aspects of contemporary religions and emerging ways of life, conducive to allowing people freedom while also understanding the true nature of reality. His church is destroyed by arriving radicals who ultimately kill him too. Author Heinlein wrote this novel to challenge social norms and later explained that it is an invitation to think, not to believe, and admitted, "If I managed to shake the reader loose from some prejudice, preconception, or unexamined assumption, that was all I intended to do." I think Hall understood this as it meshes well with his own philosophies, and with the general theme of this song. This verse references a scene in the book when two or more people share water, which is extremely rare and valuable on Mars. They become what the Martians call water brothers. To draw from the well of unchanging in unity, a profound bond is developed. In layman's terms, when you share seldom known things about yourself with another person, and they can relate as they understand and perhaps have had the same or similar experiences, your relationship strengthens. It's a nice feeling to know that you are not alone in your thoughts and circumstances, and the more people with whom you can share your true self, the less confused you become about your life, and everything begins to fall in place like dominoes. With that said, nothing is concrete and everything is subject to change and interpretation. Perspective is everything. The Water Brothers put their trust in the ultimust, a word coined by Hall, which I can only imagine is the collective belief system beyond any negation, the subjective truth to which we give the highest value and praise. The always singing song recalls the dance of life from earlier, the river of consciousness we endlessly float along. The final verse has always been one of my personal favorites with its simple yet effective metaphors. Beautiful. Now, before diving in, I'd like to express the connection between eyesight and power with this Tom Waits lyric. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. Okay, as well as limiting what you can see, having only one eye reduces what information one can absorb. It blinds physically and mentally. Marching in place at least triples in significance. To march in place means to not move, to not progress or evolve. In place specifies that you are in line. You are under the rule of an overarching presence. You're staying within set parameters and not straying in disobedience. This ties into the militaristic connotation of marching. All in uniform, right, left, right, left. In 1967, the Vietnam War was in full swing, And thanks to overblown American-draped blue, white, and red propaganda, that travesty committed by one human to another was accepted in the common Western household. Fleeting were the ideologies of compassion and empathy, which the counterculture was simultaneously fighting to keep alive. So the one-eyed men are those who are under complete control of the powers that be. The mystery training of the two-eyed men refers to their awareness of other states of consciousness and the societal divisions of class, but they're still allowing their pride and ego to have the final say. They see themselves as superior to the one-eyed men, yet in some ways they're one and the same, as they both in essence focus on and get tangled up in the trivial nothings of everyday life. Three-eyed men can yo-yo where they will. This is equilibrium. To be carefree but not careless. To be serious but know how to laugh. Peace and tranquility are the earned benefits of exhaustive hard work and contribute to the great domino effect. The more laborious and the more hands on deck, the more peace we have. If we only ever have fun, how will anything get done?
Because if happy always, your ancestors, no fire, no house, no civilization, just ba-ba-ba, lovely wilderness today, then dead.
Having activated the third eye chakra, three-eyed men are the spiritually experienced who take advantage of this house and what it has to offer. They go within, practice nurturing and loving, and reap the benefits both inside and outside the house. I want to note here that at the beginning of that final chorus, after finally feel the power fill, there's actually a mistake. Guitarist Stacey Sutherland drags and misses his cue. Despite having dedicated hours to this throughout the years, I've never come across anyone else who has mentioned this before, so there's a fun fact for you. Shortly after the final verse, the song comes to a close with a nice fade out to nothing but a hum of feedback. Clocking in at almost 8 minutes, it's over. Slip Inside This House is one of those songs which requires several attentive listens before comprehending its intention, and it's great fun to revisit through the years and each time learn something new about it, as well as about yourself as your perspectives and ensuing interpretations change with age. I personally think it's a masterpiece, and I congratulate Tommy Hall for having written it, and the Elevators for having put the music to it, making it a sonic exploration through the heart and soul. Overall, I think that Tommy wrote this song with the intention of it becoming an anthem, a hymn, a guide for a generation which, to his eyes, though being radically different to their predecessors, were just as lost. He could see the rich potentiality and the people power in the hippie movement, but he also saw that it was slipping away like sand through their fingers. And I suppose that's why I have been so drawn to this song that I'm making this video. In some sense, it came before its time so far as viewing not only the counterculture but all of humankind through the lens of retrospect, but in real unfolding time. Yes, we now know that what the youth of the 60s did had a lot of heart, the best intentions, and an explosive type of widespread change which looked like forever, but a lot of the work required to make the dreams eventuate simply did not happen. Tommy's lyrics are visionary. He was on the inside, yet cautioning everyone else around him about the dangers of not planning ahead. Yes, you sometimes have to take the step off the cliff, but make sure there's a safety net first, keeping in mind that everything we have today in terms of civilization has only come about through vastly laborious centuries of great minds working together to agree upon and actualize specifically calculated metaphysical problem solving, something very few so-called free thinkers of the time ever did.
Hippies. They're everywhere. They want to save the earth, but all they do is smoke pot and smell bad.
Tommy's message was more informative than cautionary, not telling anyone what to do, but giving them more options. I think he was trying to tell people to live life with the purest of spirit, to exist under yin and yang's umbrella, knowing when to take control and when to let it be, to make the most out of it, meanwhile acting as a role model for the coming generations to forever strive to do better than those before. We are all here for a short time. May we not let life pass us by.
And if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's because neither do I.
As Robert Plant once said, the whole idea of music from the beginning of time was for people to be happy. So if I don't enjoy the music, that's my loss. And if someone else does, more power to them.